All right, what's going on, guys? Charlie Jones here from the Armed and Successful podcast, a podcast all about arming yourself with the knowledge to be successful in life and business. My first guest is literally the man, Ryan Stewman. If you guys have not heard about him, you need to Google him. And when you Google him, spend all day because there's a lot to know. First, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the podcast today.
Dude, is this your first podcast?
Legit, yeah. So I'm pretty big on IG and all that stuff, but it's my first podcast. I've done some other episodes, but you're my first official episode that I'm going to put out to the world.
Well, that's fucking crazy. Awesome. I'm honored that I get to be number one here. You know, we're number one.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. So I keep it really light and airy in the podcast. And basically, once again, it's all about arming yourself with the knowledge and to be successful. And the real reason why I wanted you on here is because you're a true inspiration to me and pretty much every other entrepreneur and business owner that I know personally. And I just wanted to run through a couple questions with you. So
let's do it.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, I know you've written about 11 books. I've read through 5 of them. My favorite is Fuck Your Excuses. Dude, that's my mantra. Like, so what was your inspiration behind that book?
Well, that's actually a cool story, man. And this will help your audience out if you ever think about writing a book. I was probably, the first book I ever wrote was Hardcore Closer, and I actually typed that thing out. It's like 40,000 words that I actually did on a keyboard. And I'm like, man, it took me like a year to write it. And I'm like, this was really fucking difficult. And then I realized that, like, what if I just recorded myself, had it transcribed, then paid an editor? I would be able to get a book out quicker, right? Because I can, it's easier for me to talk for an hour than it is for me to write and punctuate and all that shit, right? Because I'm a perfectionist, so I can't just write and then be like, here's a bunch of shit, go edit it, right?
Yeah.
And so in 2015 or 2016, I lived in this penthouse and I was going through a little bit of a dark time. I was, fighting for child custody with an ex-wife and rebuilding some shit in business, which we often have to do as entrepreneurs. And I made a post on Facebook and said, hey, if I did a mindset training of some sort for, like, let's say $99 for 6 weeks, would any of you be interested in that? Mm-hmm. And I had like 500 or 600 people pay for it. And then I'm like, well, shit, I got to do this. I believe in business. Before you take action on something, you need to test the market and see if they even want to buy it. Because if I'd have went and recorded a 6-week thing and said, hey, here's a 6-week thing, and then nobody bought it, I'd have wasted 6 weeks of my fucking time, right? And so, I believe in, like, leaning in and pitching it, and then if they want it, buy it, then I'll deliver it. I've always done things that way. So I record this, and dude, people started hitting me up saying, dude, this changed my life. I needed that, just like what you just said.
Yes.
And a few years later, I'm like, man, I should turn that into a book. And it was originally called, like, the Hardcore Mindset or something like that, the training program. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm gonna turn this into a book, and I'm just gonna call it Fuck Your Excuses, and nobody was, and I've started a lot of trends on the internet, but nobody was really saying that. You hear a lot of guys like Hormozy and Tony Robbins and them say that now. But back then, nobody cussed on the internet, and it was very clean and supposed to be professional, like LinkedIn and things like that on social media. But I don't give a fuck, right? And so, I wrote that book, and a lot of people bought it, man. Obviously, still do buy it. And I still get messages on a pretty regular basis. And the book was written like maybe 10 years ago, and I still get, shit on a regular basis. Like you're saying, like, dude, that's my favorite book. That changed my life. I needed that. But, there's a timing for everything, Charlie. And the cool thing was I was going through a hard time. So on that, I'm literally talking to myself, like I'm trying to psych myself up into doing those things and reminding myself who the fuck I am. And the world got to listen to it. And then it became a book. And, shit, now I got FYE. That's like our mantra around here. I have it tattooed on my hand. But again, that's for me. That's not fuck your excuses, Charlie. That's fuck your excuses, Ryan Stewman. You know what I mean? That's a reminder for me. So, man, that's how that book came about, man. Just threw something out there and really just needed to talk to myself. That's the great thing about what we have today in the day and age of the internet is when I'm doing Rewire, when I'm doing the Hardcore Closer podcast, when I'm doing any of this stuff, I'm really talking to me and letting the world in on my inner dialogue that I have with myself, and it benefits them too,
It's fucking amazing, man. Well, to your point too, and speaking to something that you mentioned, the Rewire podcast, I love that too, man. I literally binged it. Like there's a lot of episodes, so I binged it all. But one that I really, really loved was one about marriage. It was marriage being a magnifier. And I know, your background about being divorced 3 times, married 4. Myself, I've been married for 19 years so far.
Awesome.
So I'm a little bit different. I told my wife there's only one way out, and you don't want another way out. So, and then she laughs and says, well, I'm going to tell my mom. And I said, well, if you tell your mom, she's got to go too. But
no witnesses.
Yeah. But how do you see your experience in marriage, especially now with Amy? How has that built your character into being the entrepreneur, dad, everything that you are today? I mean, what do you think that you've taken the most out of your experience with the marriages?
Well, marriage, number one, I fresh out of prison, it's like coming home from, war. You marry usually the first thing you fuck. And you know what I mean? Like military guys do it, prison guys do it.
Yeah.
Lasted like 6 months, and crazy story. This lady, I'm gonna call her a bitch. It is what it is. This bitch, we got divorced. She took everything in my house and then bought a fucking house 3 doors down from me, so where she could call the cops and watch every time we had parties and shit. Bro, it was nuts. But
Jesus.
really rough time in my life, to be honest with you, because I own this house. I wasn't written, so I couldn't leave. And I'm like, this bitch lived. She could have moved anywhere in the world. She's 3 goddamn doors down from me, We didn't have no kids together or any of that. Second wife, I got to go back to prison. This time I got caught with a gun that I wasn't supposed to have, and I got to go to federal prison. And I didn't want to get married, but I needed someone to execute. I didn't trust my parents, and so I needed someone who could be an executor of my estate, because I was a millionaire when I went to prison. I had like 30 properties, a bunch of other shit, you know what I mean? And so we got married right before I went in so she could sign from the bank account and all that stuff. She ended up cheating on me, spending all the money. And by the time I got out, I didn't have shit. But the thing was, both of those relationships were like, this is Mrs. Right Now, not Mrs. Perfect for me. Right. This was, hey, sex is good. We seem to get along. We should probably get married. I like taking things to the next level. And so, hey, we should probably level up. Right. Third marriage was my high school sweetheart. We rekindled, got married. Unfortunately, she got sick and couldn't work. And I'm built, she married this guy who was a loan officer, dressed like Jake from State Farm. And then, then I lost my license. I became an entrepreneur, going through a hard time mentally. I'm cussing online. I'm getting tattoos that I've always wanted, and becoming the man that you see today. And she's like, dude, that's not the guy I married. So we end up parting ways. We get along really well and share a kid. She literally lives, fuck less than a mile from my office here where I'm at. But after all that, bro, I'm like, man, listen, I'm trying to just grow old with a woman that I love, and I've failed 3 times, but first you don't succeed. Try, and try again. Right. And so I got intentional, and I wrote down my perfect spouse. This is what I need in a woman. This is what she would be like. And I went on a bunch of dates. I'm not a promiscuous person, so I didn't have a whole bunch of sex with people, but I went on a bunch of dates. And if they didn't check off every single thing on this description that I wrote, it's like, hey, give them a hug. Nice to meet you. And happily ever after somewhere else. Right. Yeah. I met my wife, and about 6 months after dating, originally I met Amy, about 6 months after dating, I gave her the description. I said, what do you think about this? She goes, oh, you wrote this for me? I said, I wrote it a year ago. And she goes, oh, no shit. And I was like, but I think I finally found that person. But I don't want to get married again. I just want us to grow old together. I'm scared of marriage. I tend to fuck marriage up. Amy is the real hardcore closer. And so after a few years of being together, 3 years of being together, we had a kid together, and she's like, we got to get married, And I'm like, no. And she's like, dude, look, I love you. You love me. I fit your perfect description. You're my human. We got to get married. So now we've been together 10 years. We've been married, actually be 10 years on Tuesday, and we've been married 7 years. And the thing is with us, before we got married, I decided this time to do it. The other marriages, no intention. Sex is good. You're cool. We get along. Let's get married. This time, perfect woman. And then we wrote a prenuptial operating agreement for our marriage, date night every week, time with
Okay.
the kids, how we would raise them, the things we agreed on. And we came to a mutual agreement like you would with a business partner, because a marriage
Yeah.
truly is a business of raising a family.
100%.
And we now we have that operating agreement memorized, but we would resort to it in the beginning. Well, look, man, right here, this is how we're going to do this. Remember, we agreed on this.
I like that. I'm writing this
And
down as you talk.
yeah, and so, you know, Amy, I wasn't a standards guy. I was a sales guy, a convict, you know, just a fucking loose cannon. And over the course of 10 years, Amy has magnified who I really could be, how I could. She's made me a better person. She's encouraged me to you know, carry myself the way that I have, encouraged me to get some standards in my life, encouraged me to be selective of who I give my time to and who I hang around with. And she's honestly, I would not be the man that I am today without her guidance. She's been the best mentor that I've ever had. And I know a lot of guys will say, oh, my wife, blah, blah, blah. But I was intentional about this shit. That's why I have, and I don't want to lose her. You know what I mean? And so and in order not to lose her, I have to continually be better. You know, this morning I was in a bad mood, fucking hollering and screaming about some shit, nothing to do with her, but some work shit that I'm going through. And, you know, she's not feeling good, so she wasn't in a good mood either. But I left the house and I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm just going to go tackle the day. I'm the hardcore closer. I got to go, you know, at home, I'm dad. At the office, I'm the hardcore closer. So I just got to go put my mask on and go after it to the battlefield. And she texted me right before we got on this podcast. She's like, sorry for adding to your crankiness this morning. I don't feel so well myself. And you know, I just want to support you. And that's the kind of woman or man, if you're a woman or whatever you're into these days, that you need in your life to that really, when you're up, she brings you back level. When you're down, she brings you back up. Like, you know, that's what you need in your life. Oftentimes what happens in a marriage is you're up, they come to your elevation, and then you're fucking butting heads like rams on the side of a fucking mountain, and that ends up in divorce, you know? But we committed, like, no matter how mad we may get at each other, no matter how tough things may be, that we're committed to each other. We're going to work through it. We fight. And when we fight to resolve the situation. We don't fight to be right.
Man, that's amazing. You know, first and foremost, thank you to Amy, because I've seen, you know, I've been following you for a long time. I'm not the guy that's, you know, hey, you're the best. I'm not going to reach out to you. I'm just going to look from afar like I do with my friends. As adults, I have a close circle of friends, right? We don't talk every day, but I follow them. And every once in a while, I reach out, hey, man, you're doing a great job. If you need something, hit me back. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that encouragement, like Amy's giving you, is what we need as men, because the truth is, what I found and what I find and what I draw from a lot of your posts, honestly speaking, your Facebook posts, your Instagram posts, now that you're a little bit more active on Instagram, is that it's just inspiring to hear other people that are struggling. Because we as men, we don't talk to each other enough. We kind of, what I found is, take it inside and with the issues we're having at work and life, and we bring it home, and then we're angry at our wives and our sons and just yelling for no reason. And you're not realizing until, like, for instance, Amy probably does for you, my wife does for me. Hey, Charlie, did you realize you were doing this? I didn't realize I was yelling. I don't even know why. So I really appreciate you being open with that and sharing that, man. That's awesome.
Well, you know, I'm a loud guy, an intense guy, and sometimes people mistake intensity for anger. Mm-hmm. And I'm typically not an angry guy. Shit pisses me off sometimes, but I'm just an intense guy. And a lot of times people mistake intensity for anger. And my wife's very good at, you know, deciphering between the two. Is he being intense or is he angry at me? You know what I mean? And, you know, because I've been through a lot of PTSD in my life, and in prison and in, you know, selling drugs and shit. You got to raise your voice to get motherfuckers' attention. Oftentimes, right? You can't do things the opposite. And so, you know, the thing though that you talked about, men not having a place to vent to, and they go home and vent or yell at their wife or whatever. You got to learn to vent to her. Honey, can I vent to you for a minute? Can you just sit here and let me get this shit off my chest? I don't need a solution. I don't need to fight back, but can you just listen? I need to fucking scream at something. Can you just be that sounding board for me? It's like, oh yeah, sure. You know? Wow. And then typically Amy will be like, oh, fuck, it's like that, huh? Okay. well, you want a solution or you feel better, right? And she'll ask me that, do you want a solution or my advice, or you want my viewpoint, or do you just feel better? And oftentimes I'm like, I just feel fucking better,
Yeah.
And, it's funny you mentioned that about dudes. I got a buddy named Victor Bell. I've known him for about 10 years. Yesterday, I'm on a coaching call with somebody, a new guy, and the new guy mentions that he's friends with Victor. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm a busy guy just like you. If someone's not right in front of my face, I'm typically not thinking about them because I got so much in front of my face. And that's how we are as dudes anyway. And I'm like, man, fuck, I need to reach out to Victor. 4 or 5 calls later, I look at my Facebook at the end of the night yesterday. I left the office about 8:30 at the end of the night. And in my memories, there's Victor. Just happened to be on Facebook memories. There's Victor. I was like, that's a sign from God that I need to reach out to Victor. So I reached out to him, sent him a text. Yo, bro, what's up, man? This guy, James, mentioned you. I saw you on my memories today. Clearly, God's pointing me towards you, man. How's things been? And bro, it was like, we probably talked in 3 years, but bro, it was like fucking instant homies again, man. My kids are in college, blah, blah, blah. I watch you with Amy, and you know what I mean? Like, but that's how we are as dudes. I may not see you for 2 or 3 years, but if it's all good, it's all good. It wasn't like, oh, we just distance each other because we don't like each other. Victor's running a real estate fucking hedge fund. I'm over here running a business association. We don't have time to always check in, but it was nice that we checked in and it was just like old times,
Man, that's awesome. And to your point too, because you're talking about God a lot, which I love too. I've seen a little bit of transition in you for those of us like myself that's been following you for a while, into more of talking about your faith and talking about God and doing talking about scriptures. And I think you've even preached a couple of times. How do you see your faith, whether it be newly refound or in general, affecting the way you're doing business, relationships in business and with your family?
Well, at my church, there's a saying, if God's for you, who could be against you? And in the Bible, it says God created man in his image. So I figure if I'm created in God's image, I better be a good reflection.
That's
and
awesome.
a lot of people think that, but you cuss, Ryan, you say fuck a lot and blah, blah, blah. And, I had a big breakthrough one time. I tried to play this good Christian guy. That's not who I am. And God knows that's not who I am. Right. And it didn't work because it was a character I was playing, not the real Ryan or the real hardcore closer. It was just this character I was playing. And then, I thought I had to leave God to be my real self because that wasn't, I thought, okay, if I'm going to be myself and the real Ryan's tattooed, cusses, back then I smoked weed, whatever. And I got to step away from God because I don't want to embarrass him on my behalf because of my actions. Right.
Sure.
But in 2018, maybe it was 2017, I was in St. Louis with Andy Frisella, and I just met him for the first time. We were at some event, and I didn't really know who he was, but when he spoke on stage that day, I was like, well, this guy's pretty cool, And that night, we're at the bar having a couple of drinks, and Andy was there with this guy named Vaughn, who used to be on the MFCEO podcast with him. And I'm talking to Vaughn for a couple of minutes, and I was like, well, what do you do when you're not podcasting or working with Andy? And he goes, I preach at the local church. And Andy looks at me and he goes, yeah, that's my spiritual mentor, my pastor, my preacher. Oh, no. And he goes, I fucking love this guy. And I went, did he just say he fucking loves his pastor? And it clicked for me. It's like, you know what? God knows who we are anyway. And if we're trying to pretend to be something we're not, that's got to be a disappointment to him because he created us in his image. And if you read the Bible, God killed a lot of people. He's probably a pretty intense, pissed off person at some point. He's got to be mad right now.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? And he's like, you guys are cutting off your wieners. What the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? So, he's got to be an angry, and it says God is a warrior in the Bible a bunch of times and stuff. And so I thought, I'm just going to be me and try to be an example of someone who's real, but still loves God. And you know what? So what if I don't cheat on my wife? I don't abuse people. I don't steal from people. I don't rob from people. I follow the 10 commandments. You know what I mean? I cuss a little bit. That's if you're talking flaws, that's my flaw. But that's how I make the impact, I guess, with the way that I orate things. And that's just who I really am. So it's like, God didn't create me to be perfect. And if one of my imperfections is I don't have the best speech in the world, I'm sure that's not going to be the thing to keep me out of heaven. On the meanwhile, I've inspired millions of people. I've had 83,000 clients. I've written God knows how many books at this point, how many YouTube videos and all this other stuff. So I must be doing something right or I wouldn't be in his favor, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that you say that because, I cuss a lot. With my background, long story short, didn't grow up with much, grew up in a trailer park, got kicked out of high school, never went to college, went to the police department, left that early because honestly, what I found in myself, at least, discovering I got ADHD and I don't like medicine, is I have a real problem with authority. So that's kind of why I started in entrepreneurship. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do ever. So I can appreciate what you're saying, and that's what I struggle myself. I'm sure there's a lot of men, and I'm glad I'm really, really glad you said that struggle with their faith in thinking that they have to put up a front that they you can't drink. Not that there's anything against drinking, but you can't drink, you can't cuss, you can't be yourself. I mean, I really appreciate you saying that because that really hits home, and I'm sure it will for a lot of people.
Well, here's the thing. You mentioned drinking. I don't have a problem drinking, and I'm not an alcoholic. I can take it or leave it. Doesn't matter to me. Some days on a tough day, it's nice to have a couple glasses of vodka to escape things. My problem was weed, to be honest with you. And I couldn't I know people go, oh, weed's good for you. It's not addicting. Bull fucking shit. Maybe for you, not for me. I had a fucking problem with it, man. I smoked that shit all day, every day, man. And some people like, oh, he taking, dude, I was smoking a vape pen a day and a couple of joints a day, bro. I had a problem, man. And I was a functioning. So I'm like, I'm still winning. I'm still functioning. I still got this shit under control, right? But I have mood swings and all this other stuff that comes along with it. And I'm like, okay, I have a problem here that if you smoke weed to go to sleep or maybe smoke on the weekends, then you don't have a problem with it. Just like I don't have a problem with drinking. But I had a problem with something, and I know that I got to escape from that. I say that because if you're drinking every night, and you're getting drunk, you're yelling at your wife, and you're doing all that shit, you got a fucking problem. You can't go, well, Jesus turned the water into wine. Yeah, but he didn't drink it 24/7. He didn't wake up. Shit. He didn't walk around drunk pretending he could heal people. There's a difference there.
I like that. Now, as speaking about that too, I'm coming back to the Rewire podcast because I draw a lot of inspiration in my daily to-dos. So you had one that was rediscovering your purpose, right? So for me, especially with business, a lot of people that don't know, and this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, is to teach people like myself. I never went to college. So I learned this by Google, by watching people like you, hearing about tax problems, hearing about issues with zoning when you were doing your Apex building, the time that it took you to build it. So this is something that I'm hoping to inspire people to learn to avoid the issues that myself and yourself have went through, or maybe just go through them and say, fuck it, I got to reach out to them and see if hopefully they'll, reach back out to me. But with you, all the changes that have happened in your life from, being in jail to now being a CEO and entrepreneur of multiple businesses, which are phenomenal, by the way. What do you think was the point, or has there been several points where you've had to kind of say, you know what, maybe this isn't drawing revenue or this isn't doing what I needed to do. I need to rediscover my purpose in a sense to say, let me effectively put effort here to make money while this isn't making money.
That is such a timely question for me because I had this I'm like a contrarian type of person. And like you said, you don't like authority. I don't like to be like other people. I was cussing on the internet before everybody did it. I was the first person to start teaching internet social media marketing. Like nobody was teaching how to get leads and shit from social. There was zero people. I mean, I got receipts. You go back 2010. You know that I've been doing that since 2008 for myself. And I wanted to be different than everybody. So I start watching more and more people get into masterminds and starting a mastermind and coaching and stuff like that. And I'm always thinking, how can I be different than these goofballs and clowns that I literally am an example of those who can't coach. I lost my license. I couldn't do it. So I coached people in the industry that I was a leader of since I couldn't compete with them anymore. Right. And somewhere along the lines, after building a good, successful business, a lot of times entrepreneurs like to break shit. everything's perfect. Let me fuck it up because I love chaos. Right.
Yes.
And so, and
100%.
that's an ADHD thing, which goes typically hand in hand with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so, about 2017, 2018, I built a software company and I started doing all these other things, and they make money and they make
Mhm.
decent money, and good money by some people's standards. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna be this guy that has this big mastermind platform, but don't take money from it, right? It's got to pay
Mhm.
for employees and the building and shit like that. But I'm not going to take a salary from it. I'm going to be the guy that makes money from other quote unquote real businesses.
Sure.
And so I started building some other businesses. And then I look up, about a year ago, and I'm like, these other businesses distract me from the thing that I should be doing. I don't like running a software company. I don't like
Mhm.
fucking managing real estate. I like coaching people. I like doing podcasts. I like speaking into people, saving them money in our business association. Like, I like those things. That's what I was put on this planet to do, was to inspire people and
Mhm.
help them see blind spots that they don't have. And here I am trying to act like I shouldn't get paid from it. And here I am trying to put other people up to run that company so that I can be this entrepreneur with all these different streams of income. But a jack of all trades will make decent money, but a master of one or two things will fucking run the score up on everybody. And
Yeah,
so
for
now
sure.
I'm at a place where I'm selling off the software companies and I'm unwinding my real estate portfolio. And I mean, and to some people that might seem crazy, but to me, it's like, dude, look, I go buy a $500,000 house and I got to put 25% down. Okay. So that's 250, that's what, $150,000, give or take, and then I'm going to make $500 a month from it. So I just tied up $150,000 to go make $500 a month, $5,000 a year. Motherfucking AC goes out at $7,500. I didn't make any money from this. Yay! I got a little stupid tax depreciation benefit, which that shit's going away anyway,
Yes.
right? And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I look up and I got $20 million worth of real estate, no partners, just banks and
Mhm.
me, and I've got all this money tied up into it, and it's cash flowing. I don't know, fucking $5,000-6,000 a month. Fuck, that's an hour's work for me. What the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And I build this software company, and now, and it charges $29 a month, and I make 50, 60, $70,000 a month from it. The company does, but now I got overhead, and now I'm going over here trying to market something for $29 a month and get thousands of people to buy, when I can go make 5 sales and make $50,000, $60,000 if I have to. And I'm like,
Mhm.
man, what the fuck am I doing? I got a hammer. I try to create this. I want to be different, and I don't want to make money from the people. Like, let me make my money from the fucking people. They don't mind paying me. They love the fucking results they get. Why
Yeah,
don't
for
I
sure.
just hammer down on that? And so, the tendency is to want to own all of these things. But let me tell you, there's really only two things that I've found that create passive, real, true passive income. Okay.
Mhm.
And they're not guaranteed, but we think, oh, real estate, that's passive income, until a fucking tenant catches the place on fire, or
Right.
until a fucking, a water leak busts out and you're spending 30 grand in a remodel, like I did in a house one time. A water line busted in it, or an AC goes out, or some shit like that, or tenants move out and knock holes in the wall for no fucking reason when they're moving
Mhm.
the couch and shit. Right. Like it's not passive. Okay. What's passive is two things. I've got a guy that I invest with for electricity,
Mhm.
and they pay me electricity shit. I loan him money, and 15 months later, he pays me the money back. That's the
Yeah.
easiest thing I've ever done in my life. The
Yeah.
second, and it's the only thing that I've had to do nothing but send money and get money back. Number two is putting your money up in like a mutual fund or a CD or something, and it sends you fucking money every single month. Everything else
Mhm.
requires work. And so
Yeah.
I have this rule for money that I completely fucking violated, but I didn't think I was violating it. And it's never worked for the same dollar twice. I got 21 rules of money. You can go look it up on YouTube or the
Mhm.
internet,
I'm
and
familiar
it'll
with it.
give you these rules. But the rule is never work for the same dollar twice. Let me give you an example. My main job pays me $250,000 a year. I'm like, I need a side hustle. Okay. So I go start fixing and flipping houses. And so now I got my main job. I get money from my main job. I go invest that money into flipping houses. Now I got to manage contractors. Now I got to manage realtors. Now I got to do all this. Now the money that I got, I'm actually working to get it back again after I've spent it. Right. So I'm working for that same fucking dollar twice.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I can now take $1 that I make, put it up in a mutual fund, put it up in the stock market, put it up in these electricity contracts that I do. And I don't got to work for it. I've done fucking everything. And that's the only thing where, and there's lots of people that have promised, Amazon stores, e-com, like,
Yeah.
and maybe you can make passive income from it. I didn't. The people that I invested with didn't fucking come through, and it didn't pay anything like it said. But I can trust a mutual fund. I can trust a bank loan or CD rather. I can trust these electricity contracts because I've done them for 7 years. And working for the same dollar twice is a fool's fucking game, and that's what 99% of people do. So if you're out there and you're thinking you need to diversify, no, you need to master the craft that you're at. Take that money, put it into something that's truly passive, a mutual fund, a CD. You can't have my electricity futures contract guy. That's my guy. And that's the other thing. When something's working, people don't typically tell their friends because they don't want other people in on it, right?
Right.
And so, and I figured out, Charlie, that there's really only 3 ways for a business owner to put money in their pocket. They can increase revenue, decrease overhead, and minimize taxes. And once you do all those 3 things in your business, then you've got maximum net profits that you get to keep the money yourself. And so I'm like, you know what? I like running Apex Business Association. I like lending money to people. Those are the 2 things that I do: Closer Capital and Apex Business Association. I'm going to get rid of everything else. I'm going to focus on these 2 deals that I actually enjoy doing. And I'm going to hammer down on these 2 deals and these 2 deals only. I'm going to unwind everything else and sell it off. Then I'm going to put that money up in the electricity futures and the mutual funds and let it truly be passive income. And I'm going to fucking hammer down. Dude, I've invested in restaurants that have failed. I've invested in, real estate and we all know what's going on in real estate right now. We were making money a few years ago and then the interest rates went up. So I got an apartment complex. I got 2 of them that I own, and I got an apartment complex that I bought 5 years ago with some friends and investors. And, when we bought it, it was like 3-4% interest rate. Then 5 years go by and now we're at like a fucking 9% interest rate. And that thing's eating shit every month. It's like, fuck, it's not passive income. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I'm fucking done with all that shit. And I'm not, if real estate is your full-time job, fucking master it. Cool. That's you. It's not my full-time job. You know what I mean? Yep. And so I'm all about these 2 lanes only. I'm not going to vary from them. I'm not going to waver from them. I'm not going to outsource them to somebody else. Everything else I'm getting my money back from so I can put it up into a passive source and moving down that fucking line.
Man, you're literally speaking my language. I'm at a crossroads right now, and you're speaking to everything that I'm doing. So 2 more things and I'll let you go, man. I know you're a busy man. And again, fucking, I appreciate you, bro. I really, really do. Is one, to speak to your point about owning multiple businesses and stuff. This is something that I've learned the hard way. And then I try to teach other people is, everybody's familiar with identity politics. Well, this is identity entrepreneurship. People build their identity behind what's sexiest versus what makes the most money. Okay, it's cool. You get to take home your Lexus every day because you're a salesman at Lexus or whatever, but you're not making money. But you're keeping that job because that's what's sexiest to people. Or you have 2 businesses that are not making that much money, but you gotta keep your identity behind that because that's what people know you by, instead of really focusing, like you said, on the things that are making you money. Now, and speaking to that same topic, is that something that you kind of identify with, that where along the lines of what you're saying is, everybody knows you as this, but that's really not making money, instead of focusing on like Apex or Closer Capital, which is phenomenal for anybody that watches this podcast later and you need a small business loan, fucking call them because it's the shit. So is that something that you kind of get behind in terms of the subject of identity entrepreneurship?
Yeah, a lot of people, they get shiny object syndrome, myself included over the years. They get shiny object syndrome and they're like, what's fast, easy money? I just recorded a rewire today. It's like, you can't make 2024 money with 2022 effort. Can't do it. You're going to have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard in 2024 to make the money that you made in 2022. There's no way around it. It is what the fuck it is, right? And here's what happens for most people, and I like to say no more often than I say yes. And, I had an opportunity to make money from what was that? EDL, the tax savings, like where you had.
Earn whatever it was.
yeah, the earned income tax or whatever the fuck it was, right? And they're like, just sell this to your people. And I was like, nah, I don't want to get into that because that's going to be quick money. You guys are going to make money for the next year or so, and then you're going to be broke because you're going to make a bunch of money, go buy a Lamborghini thinking that shit's going to last forever. And it's not, you know.
Yeah.
I have people, you know, oh, hey, man, you need to go build you a crypto coin and sell it to everybody else. It's like, dude, I tried to sell somebody else's crypto coin one time and got swept out of the rug, got swept out from under us, you know. I tried to do the NFT thing, made a little money, and now I'm holding some NFTs and shit like that ain't worth fucking. So I try not to get caught up in that shiny object syndrome. I'm looking at things this way as my identity. How can I do something for a long period of time? How can I create something that's going to last for a long time? And like Apex, for example, you know, people are always going to need somebody to lean on and mentor them and talk them off the ledge or give them advice, point out a blind spot that they need, give them some state of the art training. People are always going to need somebody that they can lean on for advice. That's never going away. You're never going to ask AI something and it's going to have the best answer from a human element that understands everything. This is going to give you some smart answers, but it's not going to be empathetic. It's not going to understand your situation. It's not going to, console you and all this other stuff, right? Not at least not for a long fucking time till maybe 10 years from now.
Sure.
Same with loaning money, man. People are always going to need money. There's always going to be struggles and scaling issues and clients that they need to finance. And we do that too. We loan money to businesses. And then we also will, if you have clients and they can't afford it, we'll loan money to the clients, pay you up front, and you can move on to the next deal. And so, that's not going anywhere for a while either. It'll probably be automated at some point, and I hope to be a part of that automation so it doesn't leave me behind. But like that, those two things I'm thinking are long term. Those guys that got into the ETA tax credits or whatever the hell it was called, I knew that was going to be short term. The Bitcoin warriors, maybe Bitcoin's going to be around for a while, but I mean, it's been pretty stable at the same dollar amount for a while and hasn't fluctuated too much, right? Like those things maybe aren't going anywhere, but the quick come up that people had from them, that may not happen again for a while. I want something that's going to be consistent and long term, and that's what I want to stake my identity on. I've been doing this Apex thing. We rebranded in 2018 to Apex. Prior to that, it was Break Free Academy, which is still the name of the company. But I've been doing this since 2014. I got into this, or 2010, got into this, started this, and have just stuck with it. And I've watched a lot of people come and go. I've watched a lot of celebrities come up, be polarizing, and then don't exist anymore. I've watched a lot of people come up, get shiny object syndrome, sell a bunch of shit to their people, and then fuck them over and not build the community and stuff. And we've got about 2,200 people in Apex, and it's a lot of personalities. It's and not everybody in any network that's that big has the best intentions. There's always some sort of, for lack of a better word, drama or somebody that's unhappy because you're trying to make 2,000 plus people happy at all the times. But I do my best to put those fires out. I do my best to, hold those people accountable and have those conversations with those people. And it's not the easiest thing, but I believe it's the lane for me. And that's my identity. I'm Father Apex, man. I'm the Apex dad at home, and I'm the father of Apex at work,
Yeah. Fucking love it, man. And again, thanks for your time. I want to close this out with this, man. So first of all, happy anniversary ahead of time. I think you said Tuesday's coming up for you and Amy. So happy anniversary ahead of time. I'll make sure I get your address and send you guys something fucking cool. Trust me, you'll love it. And 2004, bro. 2004 is when you started. So you literally, if you think about it, you're coming up on 20-year anniversary of just fucking being an entrepreneur badass, right? So you got $1 Million Mastermind. You got all this cool shit. You got the fucking Apex building with the new stage and all that. 2024, we're already more than halfway through, man. What's next for Apex? What's next for Ryan? I'm fucking excited. Is there anything that you're hiding from us that you want to they're like, come on, this is coming?
Man, no, I'm just going to get better. Every day I'm trying to get, 0.5%, 1% better, and trying to be better for my clients, be better for my family, be better for my people. And, I'm actually going to be, it's funny because like I said earlier, I started a lot of the trends on the internet. I started the big influencer events weren't really a thing until we did it in 2018 or 2019. With like big name influencers and stuff. And now there's that shit everywhere. This was my last big stage $1 Million Mastermind. I've discovered that the human connection is what's missing. A lot of these guys go out there and they have 500, 1,000 people in their audience, and they're like, I don't want to talk to them. I'm the king. I'm better than the peasants. And I never been that motherfucker. I'm a man of the people. I'm out there shaking hands, kissing babies. You know, that's kind of weird in today's day and age, but you get the point. And you know, I'm a man of the people. And so I've decided that, you know, hey, man, I'm going to focus on these smaller, more intimate, get to know people events, you know, 300 people max here at my own building, bring in the right people in that have stood the test of time, the Tim Grovers of the world, the Mark Shapiros of the world, those kind of people that I can trust that are going to be around for a while. And, you know, while everybody else is doing what I did 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'm going to take it back to where, you know what, dude, I came to an event and I hung out with Ryan. I got to talk to him at lunch. He sat next to me at the table. Like, I always want to be that guy. And when I got a crowd like 5 weeks ago, when we had a crowd of 1,000 people or whatever, I can't do that shit, you know? And I don't give a fuck about being on a stage. That I've done it so many times. I've been on stages with all these celebrities, all these people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Now I want to be that guy that's like, dude, when you go to his event, he don't avoid you. He don't run upstairs. He's there in the thick with you. He's one of us. That's our dude. That's our leader. That's the founder. That's the guy that we're rallying behind. That's what I'm focused on, the future. And that's some shit that you can't hack, because if you get on stage and you pretend to be something and then you're an introvert and avoid your people, they might got some good shit from you, but they don't have that connection. I always want to be the guy with the connection. And that's what the future holds for me, getting better and being the connector.
Dude, that's fucking awesome, man. And I'm going to close this again, man, thank you for your time. I know you're busy. Funny you said around 2010 is exactly when you started Facebook, because I was still a police officer and I was watching your video on Facebook in the patrol car, and you fucking motivated me to become an entrepreneur. That's when I first started thinking about leaving to start my business. So,
that's awesome.
Dude, I mean that from the bottom, not for the fucking podcast or anything else. It's the truth. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. You're a fucking real G. And I'll put this out. I'll make sure I tag you. And please, anybody that watches this podcast, because if I can get it to where I want it to go, make sure you follow Ryan on all fucking fronts. Dude is the truth, man. He will tell you what you want to hear, whether or not you want to hear it or not, when you need to hear it. But again, man, thank you sincerely.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Take it easy.
Hey, Charlie.
Sir.
When you finish recording, you want to turn the recording off.